Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2026. Welcome to 2026. This is the first podcast we're having this year, and it's so good to have you. Don't forget, for those who have joined our WhatsApp channel, I've been saying it right from December that this is our year of audacity, right? And it's been from one level of audaciousness to another level of audaciousness. And recording this podcast is another level of audaciousness. I can't even explain the kind of troubles I've gone through trying to make this happen. But it's actually important that we have this conversation. All right. So this is Deep Dive Podcast for those who are just joining us for the first time. And my name is Dumbiri Cletus. Okay. So we had an episode last year, and I remember I made a promise to do this on a monthly basis. But after the first one I did, I never did it again because of time, life issues, this and that to attend to, and all of that. So I wasn't able to do it again. But since it's a year of audacity, I'm making another commitment right now to ensure that we do this on a monthly basis. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to the host, the guest rather, that'll be joining me for next month's podcast. All right. So let's dive into today's conversation. We are talking about parts and patterns. Last series or last episode, we talked about the way out, and I remember mentioning a lot of things that can help you to break out of limiting beliefs, value systems, belief system that have held you down for the longest. I mentioned a couple of things there that you can do to break out of them. So, should in case you have not listened to that episode, please, I beckon on you. Um, check our YouTube, check our Spotify, then go back and listen to that episode. It will do you a lot of good. All right. Then, if you have not joined our WhatsApp channel, I'll put a link in the bio or in the comment section so you can always join the WhatsApp community from there so you can get updates, get informed on everything that we are doing from this side of my life. All right. So parts and patterns, and this is just the first one. By next month, we are going to still continue this part and pattern series. And just like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be having a guest. All right. So anticipate. All right. So I want to give us a backstory on this whole what brought about this episode, parts and pattern. What exactly is behind parts and patterns? I have a friend that we discuss a lot of ideologies, a lot of philosophies. And whenever ideas like that strike me, I reach out to him and we talk about it, right? So when I got the notion to evaluate the parts and what exactly parts and patterns contain, the context of this conversation, I reached out to him. I remember that was around, I think, late 2023 or early 2024. That tells you that I've had these ideologies for the longest. So I reached out to him and we got talking. Then we were analyzing how that some life destinations are predictable, how that there are decisions you can take, there are decisions you can take that are easily predictable. So some destinations in life are predictable, right? Not because people are cursed, but because many are unaware of certain realities that quietly shaping their outcomes. Life appears to reward individuals according to the path they follow, and all things being equal, every path has a destination. So this is the first thing I want you to take note of on this episode. For every path you choose to take through in life, there's already a destination ahead of you. It's like saying you take a route leading to Ikeja, for example. You are definitely going to arrive at Ikeja. Either there is traffic, either there is vehicle breakdown on the road, as long as you continue on that path, that destination, you are going to arrive there, right? So I'm saying there are paths and there are patterns that lead to success indefinitely. There are paths and there are patterns that lead to mediocrity, that leads to being average. There are attitudes, there are belief system that as long as you continuously engage them, they will ensure that you do not amount to anything in life. And this is how life is designed. Yes, miracles happen. A couple of things can change here and there. But even at the presence of miracles, a change still needs to be initiated. So if you continue on a particular, there's a lot of science that says that an object will continue in a particular motion except an external force is applied. So that's the part. Okay. So we want to bring this conversation into life, into our everyday activities. And I also want to share with us how that the mind can be automatic. I call it the autonomy of the mind. How that your mind can get used to a particular thing, and even when you choose to configure it to fall into a different direction, your mind will continuously bring you back to that path that you are trying to live. Your mind can ensure that you get the same result over and over again. That is why you see some people make New Year resolutions. They try to change their ways. They try to do all of this, but after 2 3 weeks, 1 month max, they go back to who they used to be. So sometimes it is not because they are not disciplined. It is not because they are not willing enough. Their mind has gained a level of autonomy that continues to bring them back to that path that they have been of or they have been on for the longest. All right. So I want to start this conversation with a quote or a statement by Steve Harris. Steve Harris is someone I deeply respect and love so much. The quote says that your life experiences will determine your belief system. Your belief system will determine your decision, and your decision will determine your destiny. I'll tell that again. Your life experiences will determine your belief system. Your belief system will determine your decision, and your decision will determine your destiny. Now, if you analyze this quote properly, you will understand that it lays so much emphasis on the experience of an individual. So, we are literally saying that the experiences you go through in life can help to shaping your belief system. I've had conversations with different people at different time of my life, and I'm perplexed by the kind of mindset that some people have. Even just scrolling through Instagram alone, you hear some people say certain things, and you wonder how can somebody be so low? How can somebody be so myopic in their sense of reasoning? Most times, the question to ask is, where are these people coming from? What is the beliefs? What is the experience that this person have gone through? Have you met people who say all men are bad, or this popular word men are scum? Then other people say, oh, all what's that word they say? Every woman is after your money. I'm not raising these conversations for us to debate. I'm just trying to make you understand that for every belief system that you dearly uphold, there is a life experience that you have gone through that has shaped that belief system. Now, that belief system has then matured enough to determine the decisions you make. Okay? Now, and from the words of Mike Murdock, he said that we are product of our decisions. So whatsoever a man is going to be, you will always be a product of your decision. You cannot be greater than the decisions you make. You cannot make a decision to be small, or you cannot make a decision to go to Oshodi, for example, now, and you will find yourself in Ikeja. It is not possible. So we are products of our decisions, and our decisions are product of our belief system, right? I'm reverse engineering it now, and our belief system are product of our life experiences. So sometimes you want to go back in time to ask, what are the experiences that I've gone through? How did I come about this belief system? I like to say that part of the reason why many people find it difficult to really amount to a level of greatness in life, or put a change to the decisions they've made over time, is their inability to ask questions. Growing up, there are many things that we just take in without questioning it, without trying to study where exactly this belief system emanated from. And we just take them in. And you forget that taking them in, the moment you take them in, they begin to shape the decisions that you make. And as long as they are shaping your decision, they are indirectly or directly shaping the kind of results you are going to get. All right. So let's move on a bit. So the question is, how does a sane human being in his right senses consistently choose paths that leads to smallness and average living? Because I've always wondered. I'm a believer of the um, quote that says that when we know better, we do better. But you see some people who know better, but then they lack the ability to do better. All right. So automatically, knowledge is supposed to correct decisions. But I've seen situations where people decide to do better, yet they fail by those decisions. And sometimes you say, oh, it's because they are indisciplined. Oh, sometimes it's because they are unserious. But I like to believe that it is bigger than just being indisciplined. It is deeper than just being unserious. All right. Sometimes we need to look at where this belief system came from, just like I mentioned earlier. So to understand this, we must first understand how the human mind is formed long before long before an individual starts making conscious decisions. So to understand this, we must first understand how the human mind is formed. Have you heard? I'm sure you know one or two persons who do things and they say, "Oh, that's where I am. Oh, that's where I am." I want to help you deconstruct that mindset today. The moment a child is born, the moment a child is born, that child is no longer innocent. The innocence of a child only exists in the womb. Because the moment you are born into the hands of adults. You are born into the hands of adults. And these adults start making decisions for you, either onto good or onto evil. So what that means is that if you are born into wise set of adults, you have higher propensity to grow up to become a wise individual. And if you are born into the hands of adults who don't know much, you have a higher propensity to grow up to become an average person. Okay, so this is just how it works, and there are many factors that influences an individual, especially before you get to the point of making decisions. We'll talk about them later on. I will explain later on, but let's just list them. So part of them, you have the parents, you have the environment, you have culture, you have religion, and you have school. So all of these factors influences who you are. By the time you then wake up to the understanding of who you think you are no longer who you are. You have become someone made by each of these factors. All right. So when people say this is who I am, no, sir, that is not who you are. It is not who you are. It is who the factors surrounding you, the influences surrounding you have made you to be. Okay? So this influence continues until the child becomes old enough to decide. But unfortunately, by the time that child will become old enough to decide, when it comes of age to make decisions, their mind has already been trained for years. And sometimes it becomes very, very difficult to start unlearning most of those things. Okay? So don't take up that character to say, oh, this is who I am. You have a character default that people complain about, and instead of you sit down to figure out a way to change it, you see people say, oh, that's leave me like that, you have to accept me like that. No, we can't accept you like that. We can't accept you like that. You have come to the age of maturity. You have become an adult, and as an adult, it's your call to unlearn the things that seem not to be aligned with your destiny. It's your call to unlearn the bad attitude, the bad characters, patterns that would internally lead you to damnation, that will lead you to destruction, that will lead you to mediocrity. It is your job as an adult to sit down to question these things you have believed, unlearn the ones you need to unlearn, and relearn the new ones. Okay? So, I want to take us a little bit further to look at it from the biological point of view, right? So, from a biological concept, the mind gains autonomy when the brain optimizes for efficiency and survival. At birth, the brain has excess connections, which we call synapses. All right. As life progresses, the brain begins to prune unused pathways and strengthen repeated ones. Let me give you a scenario of what this means in typical terms. So, take for instance, you have a farmland or you have a bush path, for example. If you've lived in the village, you understand how bush path works. That when you clear multiple bush paths, the one that you begin to pass consistently every time, that is a route you take. You are going to the farm, that is a route you take. You are going to school, that's a route you take. You are going to the market, that's a route you take. Over time, that route, that particular path you have created, weeds and bushes will stop to grow on that path. But the other one that you created that you stopped using or you never used, before you know it, that part, bushes will cover all of those parts. Way back then when we were small, when we are sweeping the compound, my mom would say that when you sweep the compound, it prevents weed from growing on that part. And the parts that you refuse to sweep, you have weeds continually grow on that part of the compound. So what I'm making you understand is that your brain creates a pathway. When multiple pathways are created, the one that you consistently repeat over and over and over and over, your brain gets used to them, all right, and automates them. The ones that you refuse to follow through, what happens? The brain eliminates them. Why does it eliminate them? It eliminates them for efficiency and for survival. Okay? So, and this process I just explained has a name. It's called synaptic pruning. Synaptic pruning. Synaptic pruning is the brain's way of becoming efficient. In early childhood, the brain forms far more neural connection than it needs. Think of it as an overgrown forest of parts, which I just explained to you now. Okay? As you grow, the brain asks only one question: what connections are being used? Okay? The ones that are used often are strengthened. The ones that are rarely used are cut away. So biologically, neurons that fire together wire together. I'll tell that again. Biologically, neurons that fire together, they wire together. And neurons that do not fire at all are removed. Okay? So when a thought or emotion or behavior is repeated, the synapse thickens, the signals travel faster, And an effort that you do not continue consistently is eradicated. Now, for that effort which you are consistent on, their brain needs less energy to activate them. Okay, it's just the way the brain is structured. You can Google synaptic pruning. Is a biological term. Okay, so this is why new habits feel very unnatural, right? Growth feels uncomfortable. Change feels like a resistance. That's why you see people find it difficult to change a particular lifestyle. The lifestyle that you started with from the point where you get to become an adult, or before you get to become an adult, that lifestyle, most times, you see most people continue their life that way. Most people find it very, very difficult to change, because change is very difficult to come by. Why? Your brain has mastered that particular pattern, and your brain your brain does not make wise, is not in a place to make wise decisions or foolish decisions for you. Okay, all your brain is focused on ensure is to ensure that it's efficient, it saves time, and it saves energy. It saves time and it saves energy. Okay. So, and over time, some of these behaviors gain emotional attachment. All right. So you then begin to see that it is easier to remember something dangerous than to remember something that's brought joy. All right. There are things we call fear-based patterns. They survive longer than logic-based intentions. So all of those, I'm just trying to make us see these patterns from a biological point of view. All right. So imagine a child raised in a limiting environment. His brain has gotten used to that pathway of management. That is why I started a series on our WhatsApp channel. I called it Good versus Great. And on that series, I shared on several episodes how that there is a distinct difference between the child of the elite and the child of the average. A distinct difference between the child of the elite and the child of the average. Their level of exposure is different. The way they communicate is different. The kind of audacity they assume is different. Okay, most children who grow up in average setting, you'll find them to have limiting beliefs. Imagine a child that grew up in a home where from childhood he has heard his parents talk about millions. Early in the morning, his dad is making a business call. They are discussing 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. When they want to make decision, money is not the first factor they consider before a decision is made. That kind of child will grow up to believe that everything is possible. That kind of child will grow up to believe that money is just a tool for expansion. Money is just a tool to retain wealth. Okay, so the mindset of that child will be totally different from the mindset of the child that grew up in an average home. So most children that grew up from an average home, they grew up already defeated. They grew up to believe that money is the most important thing. And some of you listening to me be hearing it for the first time. Money is not the most important thing. But when you don't have it, it looks like it is all that you want to live for. Those are the kind of statements you hear among average people, among mediocres. Money is not the most important thing. Money is not even as important as many average people place emphasis on it. All right. So the environment where a child grew up is a big factor. There are multiple things I talked about. That's why you need to be on that WhatsApp. You need to be on that WhatsApp channel to catch on some of these articles that I wrote. So imagine a child that is raised in a limiting environment. His brain creates pathway that normalizes scarcity, pathway that normalizes fear and small thinking. That kind of a child,
there are levels of opportunities that you cannot open onto, and you won't be able to receive it. So I've said multiple times that your mind can be standing in the way of your blessing. Your mind can become a limiting factor. Your mind can become a limiting factor. Your mind can ensure that you do not amount to anything. Why? Because your mind creates a system to protect you, to defend you. So when um, something that appears to be bigger than the belief system that you have injected into it over time starts approaching you, your mind has a responsibility to cut you off from it. All right. So sometimes it's not even because the child is incapable, but because his brain had no road for that kind of thinking. He has never been exposed to such an environment. He has never been exposed to that kind of resources before. Sometimes you see wealthy people say you need to appear in a certain way before they can give you contracts in certain amounts. There are people that when you go to close them on some deals worth hundreds of millions, if you don't appear in a way that shows that you can handle that 100 million, they won't give it to you. Why? Because they believe that your mind has not been developed well enough to receive it. Your mind has not been developed well enough to receive that level of capacity. Okay, so these things are important. Until you are able to unlearn those patterns, you continue to repeat the same cycle. I said something about a couple of months back that if you pick up a poor man, right, and you dress him up with the most expensive suit, you drive him in the most expensive car to a board meeting of billionaires. The moment he steps into that room without uttering a word, his gesticulation, his courage would expose him. They will literally know that this person is not a part of us. Why? Patterns, pathway. You will sense that timidity coming from him. You will sense the fear. You will sense low self-esteem coming from him. If he's going to make contributions, his contributions are not going to amount to so much in such gatherings. Not because he's not intelligent, but because most of the things he's going to say will come from a level of fear. A level of low self-esteem. He will self-question himself. And even the ones that will be able to talk in such a gathering are the best of them. Most won't be able to say anything. They will keep looking down, timid and defeated by the poverty or the humble background that they are coming from. Okay? So a man can live for 100 years, not because he lacks time, but because early patterns keep rejecting liberating sights. The patterns he has been raised with will keep ensuring that he will be standing in front of opportunity. He'll be looking at opportunity, eyeball to eyeball, but will not be able to recognize it. So these things are very dangerous. So patterns don't appear randomly. They are long installed before choice becomes conscious. And we'll look at some of the factors that install these patterns in us. I've already mentioned them earlier. So the first one I have here is family upbringing. The family is the first operating system of the mind. Children learn by observation and repetition. The family does not just raise children, it installs patterns. All right. If you have children or you've been around children, you understand what I'm saying better, because they don't work with the system of do what I say. What they understand is do what I do. So if you are someone who every morning you pick up a stick of cigarettes to smoke, and the child continues to observe you, continues to observe you, continues to observe you, even though you are teaching that child that smoking is bad, the child has a higher propensity to grow up to become a smoker, irrespective of what you are teaching that child, irrespective of the value system you pass into that child. Is more receptive of what he sees you do, is more receptive of the actions you make more than the words that you speak. So family background, family upbringing has a very large role to play in patterns installation. So you can even begin to ask yourself, what are the patterns that I've inherited from my family? What are there are people that don't eat certain kind of food, it triggers their system, and they say that is how I am. That is not who you are. Check. You picked it from childhood, you picked it from the home where you came from. There are children or there are adults who have grown up to be very saucy, very loud, very lousy. Check where they are coming from. Check where they are coming from. All right. So parents need to be much more intentional about how we raise or how they raise children, because I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent yet. All right. So second on my list is background and environment. Scarcity creates fear-based pattern. Instability creates hypervigilance. Control creates avoidance or rebellion. The nervous system learns what normal feels like and later tries to recreate it. So just like the example I shared earlier, a child, the what's it called now? The environment that a child is raised is very, very important. If 100 children are raised in a slum, the over 70%, in fact over 90% of those children will grow up to become average, will grow up to become mediocres. You can start adding emotions to these things. I'm telling you for a fact. I'm telling you for a fact. Yes, there are few outliers here and there, but I'm not even focused on the outliers. I'm focused on what is the percentage, how possible it is, how possible is it that a child will become great, a child from an humble background will become great. What is the possibility? It is possible, but beyond possibility, what is the probability? Because most times we have deceived ourselves to always think in possibilities. We have deceived ourselves to always think in possibilities. We don't ask questions of probability. All things are possible. Anything can be possible. But if the possibility of this greatness is 1 out of 100, what is the probability that you are going to become that 1 out of this 100? So it's up to us to ensure that we increase the percentage, we increase the possibility of us getting into greatness. All right. And one of the ways to do that is to improve our environment. You don't know how much influence your environment breeds on you. You have no idea. You have absolutely no idea how much influence, how much contribution your environment makes on your destiny. All right. So another thing is the educational system or the schooling system. A system where punishment for mistake creates fear of trying. Have you seen children who come out of schools and they become extremely timid? They find it difficult to share ideas. They find it difficult to fail. Such children will grow up to never try anything new. They will grow up to enter into a system and they will never question that system. Why? Because growing up, a major part of their curiosity has been killed. The part of them that is responsible for questioning, the part of them that is responsible to bring out their creativity has been killed. So while teachers think, oh, they are instilling discipline, they are correcting the child, and I don't have an issue with that, but we need to pay more attention to all of these things. All right. Reward for compliance limits initiative. School trains obedience faster than curiosity. School trains obedience faster than curiosity. The schooling system is designed in such a way that will end up creating, pardon my choice of word, but more zombies. People who are focused on just one direction. They don't have what it takes to question a reality. They don't have what it takes to creatively come up with decisions or come up with initiatives that challenge the status quo. And let me balance this right now. I'm not saying that school is a scam. I'm not going to join the bandwagon that say that school is a scam. School is not a scam, right? But while we go through school, there's a part of us that we should not lose. There's a part of us that we should not lose. Many people come out of school, they enter into the schooling system a different person, and they come out weaker than how they went in. All right. One of my mentors would say that the more academics you consume, the more of yourself you lose. I will leave it at that. I don't want to dwell too much on that. Another part that creates pattern is religion and culture. Religion and culture. And we define culture as a way of life. So the way of life of the set of people around you, either in the church setting, either in the community setting, either in the mosque setting, whatever religious community you belong to, their sense of reasoning, their mindset, the quality of their thoughts has large influence on you. Has large influence on you. Especially from childhood. Alright. There are people who their definition of life is 100% based on miracles. They live their life depending on God to do what they have been empowered to do. That is a pattern. Somebody who repeats these patterns consistently will live a life of mediocrity. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. You will live a life of mediocrity because there are things that God has empowered you as an individual to do. There are things that God has given you the power to do. He gave you the brain for a reason. He gave you a mind for a reason. And he gave you the ability to make decisions, to make choices for a reason. So if you live your life neglecting the things that you are supposed to do, waiting for God to do them, your life is going to amount to a very average life, if at all you amount to anything. All right. So religion influences our mind, influences the patterns that will follow through. Okay, so I'm sharing all of these factors so that you can sit down and question yourself. You see, one of the goal for deep dive is to raise a community of people who do not just take up things. You don't consume everything. You have brain so that you'll be able to ask questions. so that you'll be able to challenge the status quo, so that you'll be able to question narrative, so you can come up with um, 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 a different thought pattern, different from what we have out there. One of my goal is to make the deep divers community one of the smartest and the most intelligent community. And we started that community on WhatsApp already. And from time to time, I share mind-blowing ideologies, mind-blowing philosophies. And I'm not raising you to consume everything that I share. I'm not raising you to believe everything I say. Okay? So it's up to you to take in some, question them, take it with a pinch of salt, question it. If it does not, if it does not carry the sense of excellence and delivers the result that I claim it delivers, you are allowed to dispose them. All right. So emotional experience also shaping, creates patterns. The brain does not remember events, it remembers emotions. Repetition and reinforcement. Whatever is repeated and rewarded stays. That is why sometimes it's very, very difficult to break out of a pattern that you have consistently repeat over time. And sometimes we as human beings, we treat these things with a lot of impatience. You've created a pattern of financial indebtedness, you've lived that life for over 15-16 years, and you just want to wake up one morning and change. No, it doesn't happen that way. It's like an addiction. It takes time. It takes unlearning, a lot of relearning, a lot of discipline to change pattern that has been created. All right. So I'm wrapping this up now. Next month we'll be having a guest, and we'll be having the parts and patterns part 2. And one of the things we'll be talking about is how you can break out of patterns that has been created in you, whatever it is, trauma, addiction, name it, a lifestyle, patterns built by upbringing, patterns built by environmental influence, patterns built by culture and religion. We're going to talk about how we can break these patterns so that you can be free. So that you can see clearly, you can see with your 2 eyes. Because many people don't see with their 2 eyes. Many people, their eyes have veils covering them. You have scales on your eyes, and I'll do everything within the information available at my disposal to ensure that those scales fall off your eyes. They need to fall off, because you need to be able to make quality decisions. And just like the opening statement I started with, that Decisions Make Men by Mike Murdock. Decisions make men. If you are unable to change your decision, then you cannot change the quality of your life. If you are unable to make quality and life-changing decisions, you would merry-go-round the same cycle for years. You will keep rotating the same cycle over and over and over again. All right. So I hope that this episode has blessed you. I hope that you have been able to learn a thing or two, and I look forward to having you join us next episode. All right. My name remains Dumbri Cletus, and I'm the founder of the Deep Dive podcast. Thank you so much for doing this with me today. I'll see you on the next one. God bless you.